I'm working in the New Perspectives Access 2007 textbook. I'm on page AC360, and I'm going to start making this report look better. And even though I'm doing what's in the textbook, I'm doing it in a different way. The textbook shows one way to do it. I'm going to use some of those ways. I'm going to show different ways. I'm also using Office 2007 Service Pack 2, and I am noticing that there are some differences and some buggy features between in this version. So what we're asked to do first as we work through this report is, normally when you're looking at creating a report, you're looking at a picture or a drawing or something. You have something in your head of what you want it to look like. You're not simply following directions. And so I'm just going to be basically walking through this, talking about what I want it to do rather than following the directions step by step. Now the first thing I want it to do is I want community meetings to align over on the left-hand margin. So I'm going to select it, and I'm going to select an item, a control, that aligns to the left. So I've selected community meetings. I'll hold down my shift key. I'll select invoice date. I'm going to go to arrange, and I'm going to go left, and it's going to move it over there. Now to release these controls, I can click on any other control. I could click off. Now it selects other controls. I want to select community meeting again, and I want to set to bold. Okay, so far so good, so I'm going to save that. As you're working in a report, or any other object for that matter, as you get to a point where it's doing what you want it to do, save it. Because particularly like I'm talking about there being some bugs in this version, if I have to close it out without saving, then at least I can get back the parts that were done correctly. And what I want is I want this text to show completely, this text to show completely. I want my report to be spaced out on the page. I want it to look good. So as I go through this, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to set my margins. Now the book said they wanted us to do it in landscape orientation, so I'll move it to landscape orientation. I'm going to click on page setup, and on page setup ask that my top margin, it looks like I'm not changing what the top and bottom margins are going to 0.7, and my left and right margins are going to 1.5. Now in Access you want to make sure that you set those margins first, because now if I change it back to, I'm going to change it back to portrait, so it's back in portrait, and let's look at the page setup. My margins didn't rotate with my page. The top and the bottom are still 0.7, and the left and right are still 1.5. I know that you're used to in some applications that when you rotate the page, the margins rotate with it, but that doesn't happen in Access. So I'll go back to landscape here, and I'm going to just check my margins again. They're set up correctly. So I still am working with an 8-inch page width. I have 11 inches, 8.5 by 11 inches. It's in landscape orientation. I've got 1.5 inches on either side, so that's 3. 3 from 11 is 8. So I'm still working with 8. Now I want to get these reports, or these controls, to move out across the page. Okay, so I'm going to take paid and I'm going to move it out to the margin. Invoice date is okay. City's okay. Invoice amount is a little wider than it needs to be. I'm going to leave it that way. Also, paid is a little wider than it needs to be. I'm going to leave it that way because I'm going to use that space. Okay, so with any one of my controls selected, I see a plus sign. Or it's not a plus sign, it kind of looks like it. It's a move handle that appears in the upper left-hand corner. When I click it, it will select all of my controls. So I'm going to go to Arrange, and I'm going to select Remove, and that's going to remove all of my controls from this group. So what does that mean? That means now if I move contract type, it doesn't push all the other controls over like it did before. Remember, I'm going to put this back. I move it. See how it changes? Okay. Then I'm going to grab the plus sign. I'm going to click remove. Click up here. I'll click on. See, now I'm just moving one. Okay. So now I'm going to go in and I'm going to grab these controls. And now I'm going to resize them. I'm going to take this here. The book goes through a lot of size to fit stuff. Size to fit, you don't need to do it. It's a lot of wasted motion. And I'm going to grab these and I'm going to bring this down a little bit. Now what I'm concerned about with this one is this number right here. I always want to make sure I have enough space to show that number. And I want that number to be able to grow a little bit so that it could be 10,000 or 10 million or 99 million. And it looks like I've got plenty of room for it to grow. And I'm going to come in there. You see that when I grab those, I didn't change the subtotals. And now I'm going to do, in this one, format, where's it at here? Arrange. And, oh, I have to do it in another view. So I'll do that in another view. Okay, so I have those. And I'm going to switch over to Home, and I'm going to switch to Design View, and I'm going to select those, and I'm going to go to Arrange, and I'm going to go to Size to Narrowest, and then I'm going to do Align Right. So now I have them all, and now I'll switch back to Layout View. Okay. Now I want this invoice amount to align over my totals here, over my items. And let's see what we want to do next here. I want to create some space between these. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into my design view again, and I'm going to select this group, and I'm going to hold down my Shift key, and I'm going to select this group. And now, this is something you're not going to find in your book. By leaving these boxes, these controls, the same width, not moving them around, not moving them up or down, when I select them all and I go to Arrange, I can put space between them by coming in here and finding horizontal spacing, make equal. It's going to take the extra spacing I have in between these two, and it's going to move it out through the other controls. There we go. So now when I go back into my layout view here, you see that now I've created some space between those controls. And that was simply by putting a little bit of space in here, making invoice amount, taking a little space out there, a little space out in paid, and then going into my design view, grabbing the controls, and going up to Arrange and horizontal spacing, make equal. It will take all of your controls and it will space them between the one that is the leftmost and the one that it was rightmost. It won't move those two, but it'll move all the rest of them in between. And if this box and this one are sized the same, and this one are sized the same, it will move them equal distance. Now I have an issue is I need to move these again. So I'll just do Align to Right again. And let's take a look at it. Oops, sorry. And now I have some space. Okay, we're going to do some more work on this in the next segment, but I'm trying to keep each segment close. Short. Each segment short.